Special thanks to the participants of the discussion who found time in their tight schedule to come here and share their thoughts. One of our speakers will be English speaking person. That's why those who need it can take the headphones from my colleagues for translation. Allow me to introduce the participants of today's discussion before we go over to it. We have here Mr. Shuhrat Vafayev, Deputy Minister for Foreign Trade of Uzbekistan. We are waiting for Mr. Alexander Gruzdev. He's the Deputy Minister of Industry and Trade of Russian Federation. We have Mr. Marat Karabayev. He's the Vice Minister of Industry, Infrastructure Development of Kazakhstan. We also have Mr. Niyazi Safarov. Mr. Safarov, he is the Deputy Minister of Economic of Azerbaijan Republic. We have Mr. Odgonshar Batnay Ramdal. He's the Deputy Minister of Mining and the Heavy Industry of Mongolia. We have here with us Mr. Nazim Tofikovich Efendiev. He is the General Director of Metalla Invest, who has millions of meetings, but he has agreed to be with us here today. We have Mr. Mansour Hashimov. He is the First Deputy Chairman of Uz Eltek Sanaat Association. And we have Mr. Vadim Titov, President of Rusatom International Networks. We have Vladimir Shatunin. He's the General Director of Electroshed of Samara City. We also have here Mr. Azizbek Bahadirov. He's the First Deputy Chairman of the Board of the Association Uzprom Stroymateriali. Thank you for being with us today. I have introduced everyone, I guess. Today, in this session, we would like to discuss very practical matters and get practical replies. We will try to highlight the instruments of interaction of business and authorities to those companies who are only planning to come to the region, are making their first steps. And I'm referring to the esteemed, I'm addressing the esteemed participants of the discussion. If I may ask you to limit the excessive PR of your companies and focus on the thoughts and ideas in the experience that may be useful for our audience. Also, if I may, I would like to request that you fit your answers into 5 or 6 minutes of timing, because I also have some ideas I would like to discuss with you. So my first interlocutors, the representatives of the heads of the state agencies. We have Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, and Mongolia here. I know that in your countries, at least I can say that about Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan for sure, they know how to work with foreign investors. But as we discussed in the morning session, the competition, including in the Asian part of our huge Eurasian continent, is also getting more intense. So the first question is, while working with foreign investors, foreign companies, what carrots, shall we say, are offered to the investors in your countries? So our first interlocutor, Mr. Shuhrat Abdusharifovich Vafayev, I would like to know how they work with investors in Uzbekistan. Shuhrat, Mr. Vafayev, the floor is yours. Thank you very much. Can I speak from here, or what is the order? If you like, you can stay seated. So allow me, I will just stay here and talk. Of course, the matter of attracting investment is directly related with the topic of our today's discussion, that is called the new products and technologies, because one of the key factors or key reasons why we're interested in attracting foreign investment is the fact that they come with new technologies, more productive approaches to production, to organizing the manufacturing and agricultural production, and the sphere of services. And therefore, primarily, of course, for the foreign investors, as we all know full well, it is very important to have stability in the legislation, and this stability in the legislation that ensures that they have the opportunity to calculate their risks, calculate their future benefits, and make appropriate investment decisions. In order to ensure the stability of legislation, we in Uzbekistan 2 years ago, we have adopted a law on investments and investment activity, which at the legislative level has reinforced this principle of the stabilizing the legislation at the moment of bringing the investment by foreign investors. So the foreign investor, in case of any changes or amendments in the legislative framework, is entitled to be guided by the legislation and the norms that were effective at the moment of bringing the investment. Of course, we actively use the tax benefits for a number of taxes, aside from the VAT tax. So all these preferences and tax benefits, they of course depend on the volume of investment done by the foreign investor. However, by itself, just the tax benefits, as we have seen from our previous experience, attracting foreign investors would be difficult. And the key, if we list some key factors, besides the stability in the legislation, it would be the overall macroeconomic stability. Uzbekistan for a long time had a very unusual economic policy in this sense. And the most peculiar feature was the policy of peculiar foreign exchange treatment, and the market was very fragmented. There were several foreign exchange rates concurrent, which created a lot of difficulties for investors and entrepreneurs in general. In this regard, the President of the Republic of Uzbekistan, Mr. Shavkat Mirziyoyev, as one of his first important and key reforms, he has done a reform of the currency market where we have unified the exchange rates and have eliminated all the existing limitations for foreign exchange operations. Now we're already thinking of gradually taking measures of liberalizing the capital relations. And the second important principle factor for investors is the risk level that we encounter. And earlier it was very difficult for the investors to understand and to be guided, because Uzbekistan and because our banks, our entrepreneurs did not have international credit ratings. And again, one of the first steps of our government was obtaining the international sovereign rating confirmed by all key international rating agencies, which allowed the investors to determine more clearly, more transparently the country risks in doing their calculations. Now, it was very often that the foreign investors in their own countries, and especially in the countries that are new for them, they complain about the red tape, about bureaucratic limitations, and they related to administrative changes. And they take a lot of time and means in order to overcome those bureaucratic barriers. And in this regard, even though unlike Russian Federation and our other neighbors, we do not have the experience of using this legal guillotine, I believe is the name. But we are doing something like that for the past 6 years at least, and we have significantly simplified the legal framework for doing the business, and also for foreign, including for foreign investors. Now, what what else is important? Of course, as any foreign investor in this or that regard, in this or that respect, takes part in the foreign economic operations, in order to simplify and make transparent and straightforward our customs requirements, we have drastically reduced the customs barriers, customs tariffs and fees have been reduced, which on the one hand forced our companies to compete with the foreign markets. On the other hand, to allow to increase the volumes of trade, which has always been welcomed by our foreign partners. That is summing up. We have in Uzbekistan, we are striving to do everything that is possible, that is economically feasible, in order to create a comfortable, more transparent and straightforward environment for foreign investors and our foreign investors and partners. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Vafayev. That's not our single question for us. We would like to hear the opinion of all other representatives of Central Asia. Mr. Marat Karabayev is representing Kazakhstan. Mr.
Please, please kindly let us know about how do you work with the foreign investors and what are the trends of the latest times. Thank you very much for your question. So, which are peculiarities you would like to ask me about for the recent years? Just give you a few numbers. By the end of 2021, Kazakhstan has reached the level of pre-pandemic indicators on mobilization of foreign direct investments. We had 24 billion US dollars before pandemic. Those were FDIs. And nowadays, the target is to bring it up to 30 billion US dollars. As for the operating companies with foreign shares, we have 37,000 of those which have foreign capital. And we're very glad to say that the most of them have their partners from the neighboring countries. 37,000. Look, this is the number which says that investors have a trust to our country. What's new for the recent time? I can share, as it was mentioned, that we fixed our investment commitments. So roughly saying, the investor comes in 2021 or in 2022, and then the legislation can be changed after some years. This legislation would not be applicable to that investor. So the regulatory framework would be fixed at the time of the investor entry into the company. And then they are all released from welcome. We welcome another participant of the plenary session. So we have Mr. Alexei Gruzdev, Deputy Minister of Industry and Trade, Russian Federation. Welcome. Let me continue? Yes, please. So this is regarding the regulatory framework. It is stable. Also, we have the mechanism of exemption from all types of taxes for 15 years, plus they are exempt from corporate tax, VAT, customs duties for equal amount from their capital investments. If, say, the plant was built for $100, for $20, they are exempt from taxes, regardless how many years it takes. This is one novelty. Another one, according to the instruction of our head of state, for the first time in Kazakhstan, we demonopolized some sectors. Those which were monopolies in the past, they are now not monopolies anymore, like space, telecom, railways, airports, and ports. Also, a new thing, we have great potential in agriculture. 1/3 of our population is engaged in agriculture. However, the share in GDP is not more than 5%. It means that agriculture has a great capacity and good room for further development. Green economy, specifically hydrogen energy, this is a new trend. And the western part of Kazakhstan, as the experts say, like Fortescue or anybody else, they say that this is the best point in the world from the point of view of our wind directions and sun energy. And conventionally, we have mining complex. We also have something new for investors. For the first time, we fixed, actually, according to the assignment of our president, the basic ferro metals for domestic consumers will be sold to the domestic consumers according to the London rates, -5%. So we have many projects, many new investors. I'm very glad to share with you that a great number of those were from Russian Federation, including investment projects with Russia. And I would like to thank you for this support and the various ministries of Russia. We have many Russian companies, new investments, cooperations established. And as we pointed out today, that the region is the competing actor in terms of competitor for investments, but it's not so. We are like more the region of opportunities for investments, for development, and we are ready to work together with the Russian Federation, with Kyrgyz Republic, with Uzbekistan for the benefit and for the future. Thank you very much, Mr. Karabayev. We continue discussing with the leaders from Central Asia, and our next speaker, Mr. Batnay Ramdal, Deputy Minister of Mining and Heavy Industry of Mongolia. The same question like to other representatives of Central Asia. How does Mongolia works with their investors? Which privileges do you offer to them? What are the recent changes in your country?
First of all, thank you for the organizer, the Ministry of Investment and Foreign Trade of Uzbekistan, and Ministry of Industry and Trade of the Russian Federation for a great and timely event in from Central Asia. Really glad to be here representing the government of Mongolia, specifically the Ministry of Mining and Heavy Industry. This is our first time to represent. Just to give you kind of very short overview, especially the mining sector that I represent here today from Mongolia. So when it comes to foreign direct investment, 2/3, so about 70% of foreign direct investment really goes into our mining sector, just historically speaking. And I think that given the pandemic that and related challenges that every part of the world has really faced, so the government of Mongolia has recently come up with our new policy, really to fight and to overcome the kind of challenges that we face. So that's where we really try to prioritize the kind of binding constraints as an economy that we face, and really the bottlenecks in order to expand, in order to actually attract more foreign direct investment into the country. Including, for example, I think, first of all, it's really the port capacity, and especially, I think, when it comes to, for example, mining sector, it's that the port capacity really becomes the kind of bottleneck in order to expand our export. And then secondly, we look at the energy sector, actually, to be reformed and to really have to go to the next level. And then, of course, the industrialization, and that's where the mining ministry, especially the mining, actually plays a key role. And interestingly, actually, you know, almost the half of the population live in the capital city, and the traffic becomes such a big problem and really becomes one of the top 6 priorities the government is really focusing on. And then of course, the water sources, and we also see the government itself, and especially when it comes to government service productivity, and it really becomes the kind of bottleneck in order to actually kind of overcome in order to attract more investment, and we basically included government productivity as one of the top 6 priorities that we really need to resolve, and the government cannot be actually the kind of constraint it for itself. And on top of the new recovery policy that government has proposed and passed through the parliament, which is in full action right now, in order to be more foreign investor friendly, and we actually have got a package of laws to be revised, including foreign direct investment law. I think the kind of last 2 years really showed us what the government should be prioritizing in order to actually, let the country to expand and really realize its full potential. And I think when it comes to the kind of mining sector, industrialization, and where our policy is very much focused on going from mining into value-added processing, more into downstream projects. And for example, copper smelter, coal washing, especially coking coal, and oil refinery, steel making, and then I think that's the kind of the government prioritized. The Ministry of Mining and Heavy Industry has prioritized and actually used this opportunity to move forward the kind of large infrastructure mining related projects further. So I think this is where, government of Mongolia is open for business, open for investors and partners and suppliers. And I think this is where it's, a lot to learn and to cooperate with our Central Asian neighbors. And I think the pandemic or pandemic-related global logistics disruptions and then the border issues, I think, has been challenged, just like probably any other country has faced during the last 2 years. And of course, Mongolia is probably no exception, really trying to overcome through the kind of challenges. In a way, it's unprecedented in many ways. And I think working closer with especially our neighbors has been very crucial during this period. And especially when it comes to, for example, our mining sector, when it comes to export-import of products that actually makes our mining sector float and keep going. And the Ministry of Industry and Foreign Trade of Russian Federation has been actually immensely helpful sort out the kind of issues that we faced. And then I just wanted to take this opportunity to express our gratitude for that. And then lastly, I would like to further express my gratitude for the organizers of Inoprom Central Asia. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Batnay Raidal, and I hope your first visit to Inoprom in Tashkent will not be the last one. And we hope that Mongolia will also have the exposition at Inoprom next year to present investment opportunity in Mongolia and Mongolian companies as potential partners for all the audience of Inoprom.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Уважаемые коллеги, вы наверняка обратили внимание.
Dear colleagues, you might pay attention that in our speaker panel we have not only Central Asian countries but also the top managers from the countries which are very active in Central Asia, including Russian Federation and Azerbaijan. And I would like to ask Mr. Alexei Gruzotsev and Mr. Niyazi Safarov, what are the new trends you observe with respect to your company operation in Central Asia? Which are new peculiarities you might highlight when you do your monitoring of your operations? And what are the feedbacks could you give to the Ministry of Industry and also the Ministry of Economy of Azerbaijan. Thank you very much, dear guests, colleagues. Sorry for being late. I'll start with Inaprom. I recollect this room 1 year ago when first Inaprom fair was organized in this hospitable city, in this also expat center. That event actually gathered so many guests and participants that time, but it was like a showcase, you know, because we came just to get acquainted with each other, to learn about each other. And however, today, it is not the showcase anymore. Now we have come to here to get agreements on specific contracts. We know our purposes, we know what we propose, what we can do, what we want to get. And this is the main outcome of our joint work, I believe. And today is the holiday, I would like to say. This is the celebration of industrial cooperation. In a very good sense, this is like a festival of regional cooperation. Russia has never left Central Asia, and we've been always here with our good neighbors and friends. The most important what we see changed and something we missed actually over the recent years. We missed a very close, intensive joint work, and now we have it all replenished politically, culturally, all these components, you know, whatever we always had. Now we are coming into a new reality. And new reality says that we don't only trade with goods and services. Even today's agreements which were signed by heads of delegations, we didn't sign any kind of trade agreement today. Those are about cooperation, joint industries, technological technology transfer, and I believe this is now the new topic for our discussions. And in Central Asia, with each of our country partner, we have a great number of pipeline projects, including in car engineering, agricultural machinery, oil and gas, energy machinery, and digital technologies, high-tech. Some recent examples, if we take Bishkek, for instance, Russian company Vega implemented a new manufacturing facility for video camera production for traffic. And so we have plenty of such projects. In mining sector, the companies implement digital technologies for pile management and field development. And we have some engineering projects already. So we have very deep diversification, and we're now going away from simple trade. Although we have some trade, but it is also more diversified today. And we actually fought some years ago for something, and we had to overcome serious barriers. But nowadays we have preferential treatment regimes, and this also covers the supplies from Central Asia and from the whole CIS country regions. So not every forum or not every fair may say that they managed to gather in one day around 10 profile ministries from different countries. We had good statistics for Inaprom. We always had about now we have 9 or 10 countries represented by their ministries or deputy ministries. It's a good sign. And also Marat Karabayev discussed about clean energy and new technologies. All this is also included into the agenda of our cooperation, and we keep up our dialogue on this, and this is mutually complementary processes. We're not just saying that Russia comes as an investor and comes with its particular solutions and products. Not at all. We have many examples when Russia comes as an investor, establishes certain manufacturing facility, but then it starts serving the demand of the Russian Federation, and then it's being promoted to the third countries. This is a new trend which expands the boundaries of our bilateral cooperation. So bilateral now encompasses the number of third parties and our partners as well. And moreover, over these years, both in Central Asia and in other countries, I believe that many other colleagues will join to discuss about their particular sectors. We have great capacity and competence, and we have already examples when these competences are already engaged in some sectors of Russia. And this is a new trend which deserves further development. I believe that we discussed this in the Euro-Asian space when we conduct our analytical work to identify those industrial assets that the countries possess. So each could plan its own investment in industrial activity. So to avoid any unnecessary investments, to invent a wheel again, but just call for some investor to cooperate. We now will be able to save costs. This is very pragmatic and healthy approach, and I believe that neighbors can afford it. This is another trend that we need to pursue, and this will be developed over the future years. And thanks to Inaprom, and all the meetings we've held today were specifically dedicated to saying that we have this priority, let us do and promote cooperation. And moreover, due to different reasons in different countries, both in Central Asia and the post-Soviet Union countries, there were some assets which were frozen or suspended somehow. Now we're keeping up a dialogue on how to come up to a new investment and technological level to reestablish their capacity and operation, continue developing those deposits and fields using our own developments for that and our own technologies. I think we could applaud to that, and the specific projects could be developed for that. So briefly, without getting deep into detail, as we feel it today, as we see this upon the first day of our activity at Inaprom. Thank you very much, Niyazi Abdullaevich. So we welcome you, and I believe that your economic strategy is very advanced. What Azerbaijani companies say when they come to Central Asia? What kind of obstacles do they face?
First of all, I would like to thank you for the excellent organization of this event. This is the second time I'm participating in Inaprom. The first time I participated in Ekaterinburg, and it was a great pleasure for us to accept the invitation to participate in such a great event in Tashkent city. The topics are always changing of Inaprom meetings and discussions. It's a pleasure. That is the evidence to the fact that today we were able to manage that we're just not just following certain economic phenomena, but we're trying to forecast the development of these events. So in this context, I would like to note that the Central Asia has always been, from the point of economics, interesting and important for Azerbaijan. But I would also like to note another point, how Azerbaijan is interesting for Central Asian countries. So in this context, we have been closely observing the economic development of Central Asian countries, because it is the capacity that is being created from the point of view of attracting investments. So both we recommend to both our government and to the companies to be sensitive to the processes happening in the Central Asian countries, and to show even greater interest to investing to different sectors of economy. And today we are in fact observing a significant increase in the interest and increase in the scale of the sectors where the Azerbaijan companies are making investment. That's primarily infrastructure projects. That's civil construction. It is the developing information communication technologies and a number of other sectors. I would say that this process will continue to develop because the progress that we are observing in the development of the Central Asian economies in Uzbekistan, in Kazakhstan, and other countries, it is attractive from the point of creating a favorable investment regime, as my colleague told earlier, because the investments like it where it is calm in terms of politics and economic realities and all these favorable components of this favorable business environment we can observe in these countries. And the more active are our countries in the interaction with these partners, it is important to note also the reverse progress. So we have not paid much attention to that. Today in Azerbaijan, it may seem strange, but there is a formation of automotive industry taking place. For us, it was also very unexpected when we heard different proposals from our business on the possibility of creating in our country of this industry. Today, our company, Azermarsh, was very lucky in having the cooperation with the Uzbek manufacturers. So in one of the industrial zones close to Baku city, there was organized an assembly of Chevrolet cars, of Isuzu buses. I may not but touch upon the cooperation with the Russian Federation. So there in the same industrial park, the zone, there is an assembly of small sized vehicle trucks of gas group. So here I have to note a very interesting process of mutual influence, mutual attraction of investment. I imagine that this process will continue to develop. We are observing quite an interesting boom of mutual investment and attracting investment in general. And I would imagine that this process will continue to expand. And thanks to such formats and platforms that we have an opportunity to be present here today, we are interested in developing and expanding the investment cooperation with Central Asian countries. And I would assume that very soon we will be able to note the expansion both in sectors and the volumes of Azerbaijani investment in Central Asian economies. Thank you. Thank you. Apologies. I believe that we'll come back to it. And since we have Inoprom Central Asia, I would like to remind the speakers to talk more about Central Asia. And I would like to ask the Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, and Mongolia with the questions, do you know, do the leaders of your level know about the problems that the investors in your countries encounter? How familiar are you with those problems and how do you work with those? So if you don't mind, Mr. Murat Karamjanovich, I would like to start with you and ask you this. So do the investors know what problems? Oh, no. Do you know what problems investors encounter in Kazakhstan? And what do they come with? So in terms of legislative procedure, there are no requests on changing the legislation. So we are representing Kazakhstan in general that from the point of view of creating favorable conditions, this is one of the best models that could be created for investors. However, the practice shows that it is different all the time. For example, of all the recent things that I can say that one of the most frequent requests, especially from the foreign investors, was regarding what we call the last kilometer. That is, we have the railroads. So the main lines were owned by the state, but the access roads that are getting to the factory or enterprise, including the ones with foreign capital, that were privately owned. So there was such cases that there would be several 100 kilometers going over the territory, and it would cost the same as several kilometers inside getting to the company itself. I mean, the cost of transporting over the main line would cost less than the last 150 or 200 meters. So this was one of the biggest requests by the foreign investors that are already working on the territory of the Republic of Kazakhstan. So in the beginning of this year, the head of the state made a decision on nationalizing all these earlier privatized sections. Now they all belong to the state, and now there is a single tariff policy from the point of transportation. That is something that the foreign investors had complained a lot about. That's one thing. Second, I believe the question is, the point of the question is somewhat different. The foreign investors working in Kazakhstan, they definitely want to create favorable climate in terms of the procurement of equipment, technologies, and very often the choice is with the foreign goods, and there are often requests on that the procurement process inside the country should be more flexible. But then it's a stick of two ends. We believe that we want to create conditions so that the goods produced in the customs union that are produced in the Russia and Kazakhstan and the partner countries should also be selected. So this is something. Thank you. Mr. Vafayev, you have raised this topic regarding the red tape and how you are handling it. And what else do the foreign investors come with to the Ministry of Investment? What are they complaining about? What are they requesting to help? Well, first of all, in the ministry, we are trying to create such a situation to shape it in such a way institutionally so that the investors see our ministry as a single window where all the issues are resolved. So in this sense, it would be very difficult to classify off the top of my head what percentage was on requests on what questions, but they're not too surprising. So the first investors that they come to our market first, they come with questions on clarification on the application of legislation, customs, tax legislation, and so on. So here we follow the path of consistent simplification of the regulatory legislation and eliminating a maximum elimination of all the documents and legal acts at the level of instructions, regulation, and so on, and ensuring the direct action of the legislation through the laws and codes and the land allocation. Of course, Uzbekistan is a big country, but unfortunately the land resources are limited. 70% of our territory are occupied by sands and mountains, and of course land allocation has caused a lot of issues and problems that our investors encountered. So in this sense, in this regard, there have been done quite fundamental reforms which in principle allow to make it transparent for the investors to get the lands through the open electronic auctions. Yes, this system has to be improved and elaborated, and we're working on it, but there is a basis for making a transparent and independent of subjective opinions to resolve this land allocation issue. So this issue was resolved. So access to resources. Well, unfortunately, the structure of the economy was formed in such a way that it was based on this dominating status of the state enterprises, which had special channels, special tariffs and prices for raw materials. And in this regard, we are striving to eliminate all non-competitive advantages of the state enterprises, like access to basic resources like gas and water, electricity, or some raw material resources for processing. Thank you. And can I actually raise such a topic? I have also did my homework for this session, and I talked to the companies that work in the markets of Central Asia. And of course, the topic number one would be the possibility of making payments in the local currency, which has become very topical of late. And is it possible to get the opinions of the leaders of Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, and Uzbekistan? Probably Alexei Vladimirovich would like to comment on how the possibility of making payments in local currency, is it something that's close by, or is it still has difficulties? Because it's clear that for many companies, especially from Russian Federation, it would be a very interesting option. What supports it, what's hindering it, maybe we can see it very soon. Who would like to go first on this, please? Mr. Niazi Safarov. Yes, if you allow me. In our case, we are taking it in a very reasonable way, because there are some ways of mutual settlement that related to energy resources. And so today's the various processes, both in the world and in the trade economic relations between the friendly countries, they exist. So this process requires some time to have some final solution. But in general, regarding the discussion of this matter, we don't have any serious issues. So in this context, I guess it would be important to have discussions. So you mean it's a reality that such? Well, we don't have such problems with Central Asian countries from Russian Federation. Mr. Gruzdev, my friend and colleague, can probably confirm that. But here is a complexity of reasons which have made it topical to address these issues. So I believe that in a regular, comfortable condition, these issues will be addressed and will be resolved. Thank you very much, Mr. Safarov. Who else would like to have the say? Well, I believe that this is an inevitable trend, and it's a positive trend when the trade between the countries are not done in local currency. What was hindering is, well, from the historical point of view, our currencies are quite new. So all our countries in Central Asia, in the Russian Federation, some needed more time, some needed less, in order to form all the institutional foundations, to get certain credit rating, sovereign for the country, in order to have a confidence in this currency. Well, in any case, I believe that in terms of the Russian ruble, we can say that it has achieved this level, and we in Uzbekistan, we have already started ruble operations, in exchange operations. Besides that, we are also considering the operation with Chinese yuan. So I hope that this form of international payments in the bilateral international trade will increase. From the viewpoint of the risks for Uzbekistan, for example, trade with the Russian Federation rubles does not pose too many risks, because we import more from Russian Federation than we export. So we always need more rubles. for our exporters. That would also be something of an interest, and we are already testing it out. And once we see that it works, so we will be willing to continue. Thank you, Mr. Alexey, Mr. Marat. Yes, if you allow me, I would like to fully support my colleagues. What was hindering? Well, you know, when we were studying the problem of settlement in local currencies, one of the reasons why there was a dollar and euro is dominating in the settlements, well, it just was so convenient for the companies. It just came to be a tradition, and the costs of using some other currencies were less, and that's why the companies were using this mechanism. However, the trends of globalization, they mean unification, and globalization, that's actually the diversity and the possibility to use various mechanisms that would be convenient for this or that reason. So the option as a local currency is one of the tools that need to be developed, and many companies, and talking about the interests of the companies, they're interested in these mechanisms. Today, this is a more reliable and convenient instrument, and we need to develop the infrastructure. And in terms of the bilateral trade, we also have to look at from the viewpoint of the financial institutions on the balance of the import and export, and the new opportunities that we're discussing today. They, in my view, will lead to greater stabilization and straightening of the balances for exports and imports, because that will increase, from the viewpoint of Russian Federation, the import flows from Central Asian countries will grow, which will be an additional incentive for using the local currency, not only for mutual settlements, but also for funding the trade and investment transactions. That's why I believe that the trend is obvious. Thank you, Mr. Marat. Thank you very much for your question. Well, it really depends on the bilateral aspects. For example, it depends on the region too. I don't believe that it would be the large companies that work with Uzbekistan would use local currency. But then again, the bordering, for example, the southern Kazakhstan and Tashkent city, the bordering regions, they use Sum and Tenge. The local currencies were exchanging smoothly, and those going through the central bank, they would use foreign currency. And same goes with Kyrgyz Republic, Sum and Tenge in the bordering regions. They just did not know any other currency. And in the bordering regions, they are the basis of the trade turnover. And that's why I believe here, with regards to Uzbekistan and Kyrgyz Republic, it was there and it continues. With regards to Russian Federation, the trade in the local currency and tenge and rubles has started way before. It was a pilot project, then the volumes increased, and now the current circumstances force us to make it in the local currency. And looking at it this way, it's we don't see a problem or challenge about it. We are easily switching to this type of trade turnover, and our mutual trade turnover is so large that there is a market for foreign currency as well, and that this market is sufficient for local currency too. And the enterprises, as we see it now, they're switching the turnover to the mutual settlements in local currency. So this is not a high on the agenda, and the companies are using it freely. Thank you. It is also very interesting. When I was talking to companies, they told a lot about Uzbekistan, and I'm not sure whether you will agree with me or not. Mr. Shuhrat Vafayev, they were sharing the information that in the recent years, Ministry of Investment of Uzbekistan and the government was actively canvassing the investors on creating the joint venture with Uzbek partners. And for some companies, it was good form, and some companies they often said that choosing the partners is more difficult than choosing a spouse. and you can divorce easy, but it is very difficult to divorce with a partner with a JV. But now they said it's on the contrary. Many companies are actively and urgently looking for a partner in Uzbekistan, and they are willing to establish a JV. So I wanted to find out whether it's this trend, and are there any other formats, and is it true that JV is the most favorable format of cooperation with the foreigners for the Ministry of Investment of Uzbekistan?
Ну,
I'll start with this simple thing. No, we don't have any preferable format of interaction with foreign partners. Why joint ventures have become so popular amongst the state enterprises of Uzbekistan? I would say that the key actors were the state enterprises again, and the engagement of foreign partners was made in order to somehow modernize or diversify and transfer new technologies. And that was the key point by the vision and inspirations. But as of today, we are quite calm when we discuss any form of cooperation, because many sectors are open now for the foreign investors, even though a few years ago no one could think that uranium exploration and production could be opened for foreign investors. But nowadays we have a French company which works freely in uranium developments and is ready to expand in either form, joint venture or foreign enterprise. Why it is important for us, for our companies, to have a local partner? The local partner is always finds it easier to address many issues because they are more familiar with local legislation. They have experts, partners who deal with the local counterparts, and they have more expanded market in Central Asia, and therefore this mutual complementarity for the foreign investor, specifically that one who enters first to the country, it's important. Thank you very much. Nazim, Metalla Invest is a giant and very powerful company. It doesn't face the issues that many medium-sized companies face when they enter the Central Asia. I'm asking you not as a top manager of Metalla Invest, but as an experienced person, please advise to those who first come to Central Asia what kind of principles they should follow to. And what do they need to do? What skills do they need to have a success in Central Asia? I know that you also have a joint venture. Actually, it's a very simple question, and the answer would be also very simple and trivial. There is the only one principle for successful business and successful partnership is to account for the interests of your partner. You shouldn't think of your own interests only. If you truly value your partner and think of his interests, then it would go through. Regardless you are a small company or medium or a major one, it's always when the interests of a partner, interests of a buyer or of your client should be of top priority. If you don't consider that, you'll never earn money. Sorry for being trivial, but this is a universal truth, and we are guided by that, either inside the Russia or overseas, or in our friendly family of CIS countries. I would never give another recipe to anyone. That principle you are telling us is good for Europe or United States, but what about specifics of working and dealing with the partners in Central Asia? Here we have our partner next to us. the Fund for Reconstruction and Development of Uzbekistan. And we entered this partnership with pleasure because let's call things as they are. The metallurgy sector, mining sector, they are very complex and specifically investment intensive industries. And no one country in the world has these sectors established without a state involvement. And here I also should mention about the role of His Excellency President of Uzbekistan, Mr. Mirziyoyev, when he initiated a new industrialization of his country. They got the project Tashkent Metallurgical Plant out of the strategic vision of the president that there is a market, there is the demand for high quality metals, and they need to develop their own industry for this growing demand and population demand and also construction developments. And so this is the strategic choice and decision of the top management of the country, and we are as investors, it's comfortable for us to come and fit into this strategy because we believe that, and I would agree with my respected colleague, that it is not just about privileges or financial bonuses. This is more important to know where the country moves to and which are strategic priorities it persuades. And so we are moving into this partnership because we understand where the country is going to. And right today, I've met the management of Uzmet Combinate. For the 4 years, we have been suppliers of high quality raw materials for that plant. That was hot rolled steel. We have a running contract, it's going on. But the key point is what's next? What are your plans? And again, within the strategy for industrialization, my colleagues say, Nazim, we are building now their steel module, and we invest around $6 million into this, and we want to have new furnaces, and we need to have your raw materials. And so the project would be launched in 2024, but for many years. And I say, fine, I am ready to invest for you in Russia to build up our capacities, to ensure you are supplied with our raw materials. And colleagues, you asked about small and medium businesses, but again, I'm discussing about my own subject of concern. It's important in partnership when we have this coincidence and correlation of strategic objectives. We have the vision for gold and metals development, and they have the same. And this coordination, once again, I'm coming back to consideration of your partner's interests would give the effect for the economy of Uzbekistan and for Russia as well. Thank you very much, Nazim. We would like to hear now the opinion from another side of our audience. We have a representative of Uskimyo-Sanoat. This is Chemical Association. Please share your plans and which role of your company development the foreign partners play, and how do you deal with them? Good evening, dear participants, ladies and gentlemen. Uskimyo-Sanoat is a holding of 13 industrial companies, a research institute and design institute. We used to produce 78% of our capacity was about mineral fertilizers, and the government of Uzbekistan decided to diversify this industry with engagement of foreign investments, with the processing of our raw materials, natural gas, technical salts, phosphate ores, stone ores, and other raw materials. So as of today, we have an objective to diversify our chemical industry and then to identify the key priority areas. We have Kongrad soda plant, which produces calcium soda. They have very good deposit. They have natural gas containing methane. And the second cluster, we have Navoy Azot facility. And we implemented 3 big investment projects at it. They produced ammonia, carbamide, and other kind of fertilizers. And having put the new capacities in place, we decommissioned our old capacities. And now currently we implement 33 investment projects with a total amount of $3.7 billion. We plan to have another chemical cluster in Tashkent region, where we produce phosphate fertilizers. They also have good infrastructure available. And also we expand production at AGMK. This is Al Malik mining plant. And they are going to produce sulfuric acid. And we'll jointly implement another project with them on production of monoammonium phosphate of 500,000 tons and 1.5 tons of mixed fertilizers. And we have Fergana Azot plant with good production facilities and infrastructure. And we offer that for investors, including several projects, production of melamine, synthetic fibers. And the most important, we have a chemical cluster in Navoy Azot. There, using EPC, we produce HPH with the Chinese company CC7 and one company from Tatarstan and Uskim Sanuat. Power Tatna Neft also expressed its interest to participate in this project, and we currently consider to include a power public organization, Tatneft from Russia, and also with Austrian partners. We recently accomplished the feasibility study, and Worley Parsons company helped us to develop a feasibility study on production of methanol with further processing to propylene and with processing acrylnitrile and other chains. We offer to investors to participate in such projects with foreign direct investments. So this area of chemical sector is very actively ready and open to engage and mobilize foreign investments. Thank you very much. My apologies. I need to go. Why should I go? You've been all witnesses today in the morning at 11:30. I asked a question to the esteemed Mr. Umurzakov that there are some nuances with tariffs on railway transportation. Please believe me, in your presence, he instructed his subordinate and also to the manager, to the railway manager. It happens when people say something from the stage, whatever they say when they are watched by TV cameras. During lunchtime, his assistant actually approached us and he said that the instruction has been further developed to the Tariff Policy Committee to have a separate meeting with you on that. And they assigned the meeting at 6 p.m. today. Look, therefore I need to go. This is the Inaprom. So you've got a strategic partner from Inaprom Tashkent. Look, that's great. I must go. Thank you, Mr. Nazim Safarov. And so we engaged very powerful companies like Metal Invest and Rosatom. And my question is now to Vadim Titov. Mr. Titov, as we observed at your Rosatom stand, what kind of products and technologies Rosatom offers to Central Asian countries. I'm pretty sure you are going to discuss that as well. And please kindly share your new know-hows, your success stories of Central Asian operation in the market of Central Asia that could be beneficial for other countries which don't have such opportunities like Metal Invest and Rosatom have, which address their challenges or difficulties at the level of the presidents of the countries. So, Mr. Vadim Titov, please. Thank you very much. I believe that the key idea of any partnership, regardless of where it is being implemented, either it is in Central Asian countries or in other kinds of countries of the world, we need to follow up the demand, the needs of our partners and try to search for in their needs. We need to identify our opportunities to offer the partners expect from you. In this regard, it's a great honor to work in almost all countries of Central Asia, and both in energy kind projects. When you hear Rosatom, first you imagine our energy capacities in nuclear energy, although Rosatom is not only about nuclear. We deal with different energy projects. We are one of the Russian leaders in alternative wind generation. We have 750,000 megawatt of wind farm capacities. We develop the storage capacities for energy storing, and we plan to deal not just with technological development together with our partners, but also with industrial cooperation, because this is a topic that also opens up good opportunities for industrial cooperation. So I believe that those energy projects, they could be like the anchor ones, because in each country of the region, you may know that together with our partners in Uzbekistan, we continue to get into more details of the big project on development of the nuclear power plant. And we really appreciate that our partners are ready to implement this project together with us. And we realize very well that those tempo of the regional development in Central Asia, which we observe in each country of the region, those will be beneficial, and they will create new demand for power, for energy, for technologies. And we share the beliefs of our partners, which they declare by saying that the future energy must be green. This should be environmentally clean, and this should address not just reliable energy supply objectives, but also make minimum or zero impact on environment. And therefore, we see many countries and many projects which currently meet such a demand. We modernized Ust-Kamenogorsk power plant in Kazakhstan, and we also were engaged into a series of projects in small hydropower plants in Kyrgyz Republic. And you may know that we are very active here in discussing the big nuclear power plant. And in each country, we find the common points which are the most priority at this period of economic development and be comfortable to our respectful partners. And I can say generally that Rosatom is dealing not only with energy projects, but with others. And here at this INAPROM, we just decided to make an experiment. When a person comes up to Rosatom stand, he expects to see something about atomic or nuclear stations or major generation capacities. But for the first time for ourselves, we have decided we're not going to demonstrate nuclear power plants. I believe that everyone knows more or less about those. We have many interesting projects, by the way. One of them we implement jointly with our Uzbek partners. We create here in Uzbekistan a multifunctional center for processing and using modern technologies, I believe this would be very beneficial for further development of horticultural project, export of this horticultural project all over the world, and this would also important from the point of view of medical disinfection of medical instruments. We know that after pandemic, it's very top priority topic today, and together with our partners in Uzbekistan, we co-finance our projects, and we rely on the expertise and knowledge of our partners, their knowledge about domestic market, and once again we decide that this is the steady development of the partnership based on trust and mutual confidence. This is the key for future projects.
That is, we should play a long-term game, right? Absolutely. Thank you very much, Mr. Vadim Titov. I would like to give the floor to Mr. Mansur Hashimov. Mr. Mansur Rustamovich is the first deputy chairman of the board of the Association of Uzbek Sanaat. What is the role of foreign investors and partners in your work? And I would like to ask you to share your conclusions about know-how in working with them. Thank you, Mr. Moderator, the guests, the colleagues. Welcome to Tashkent, and it is my great pleasure to welcome you all in such an industrial trade fair in INNOPROM. Of course, in the very recently, through the support of the government, our industry is developing due to special attention of our esteemed president. We have our clear strategy of development, thanks to which for the past 3 years, we have achieved certain great results, and I can give you an example in numbers. In the past 3 years, we have increased our volume of production to 3 times, and the exports to 4.5 times. So it's 1.6 billions of production volume based on 2021 end of year, and the exports increased over $560 million. So we have a clear strategy for further development. So in this sense, I believe that this platform, INNOPROM, creates very good contacts for us, very good new projects and ideas. And I can give you a very recent example that for the past 2 years, we've been actively working in INNOPROM, as it was in Tashkent and in Yekaterinburg. And we have achieved new agreements in terms of production of charging devices for electric vehicles, production of engines in the cooperation mode, and also the export deliveries. So despite the fact that it is the first day today, we already have a certain good intentions with Russian, Belarus, Russian companies on those areas that we believe are relevant for developing in Uzbekistan. And thank you to the government of the Russian Federation and the government of Uzbekistan for creating such favorable conditions for establishing new contacts and for development in this field. Thank you. Mr. Mansur Hashim, which is more often, you look for specific foreign partners for certain tasks, or the partners come to you with their proposals? Today, as an association, we lead the single technical policy. We fully analyze the development trends, marketing, import component of our neighboring countries, and based on that, we develop new investment projects. So these investment projects, we lay for the finding the potential foreign investors, and we, based on that, we find the investors, we hold negotiations with them, and implement them jointly in Uzbekistan. Thank you. So we have Mr. Vladimir Shatunin. He is the General Director of Elektrosheet Samara. Mr. Vladimir Vitalyevich, it is not your first time at INNOPROM, not the first time in INNOPROM Tashkent. We would much like to hear your opinion, considering that you have here the representatives of the authorities. What are the topical issues of the relationship of the authorities and the business that should be of priority? Maybe we have missed something today, perhaps. It is a pleasure to see. It is indeed the second time at INNOPROM. that I agree with our colleagues that is growing from just the acquaintance to the living cooperation. It is reflected by our example. Continuing the electrochemical topic, we have demonstrated in our example that we have not seen any complexities or barriers by the countries that would require intervention by the leadership of Uzbekistan. But nevertheless, I think it's a very good example. We have relaunched our partnership cooperation with the largest company of Uzbekistan, Uzelektroapparat, and we are the largest company in Russia. That is, two leaders have met and have resumed work, and we were part of the same group of companies. Now we are two independent organizations, and all over 1 year in the 2021, our joint turnover reached several millions euros. I believe that's a very good result, and it's only a start. And I have to say that indeed the partnership, respect, and consideration for the interest that the partners would have, it's very important. And from the very start, when we were returning to Uzbekistan, I feel it as a return to the country. We have built our approach on the partnership, on coming to already an established market, and we definitely have to take into account certain traditions, technical regulations in this sense as well. And I would like to say that our Uzbek partner has a greater success than we do in Uzbekistan, because our trade balance is more in favor of Uzelektroapparat. But I'm sure that this is all the beginning, and we will be working on correcting these matters. We have scheduled meetings after Inoprom events. We have new opportunities opening, including on the developments that we have done some time ago. Now we are complementing each other as companies. In Russian market, we are implementing a lot of projects for Rosneft using the products that are made in Uzbekistan. And in other countries, I'm sure there are such opportunities, and I'm happy that we have here many neighboring countries of Russia, Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, and of course Mongolia. We work with Mongolia too, and right now it is the time of opening the opportunities that were earlier not less obvious for us, and I'm sure that our joint development will be reflected in those countries that I have mentioned. Now, for that, it might take some things like international cooperation. We were talking to Ministry of Trade. We are cooperating for the second year now. I'm sure that we will complete it this year. We have some milestone scheduled this year that we should get the international certification of our laboratory. It would allow to simplify the process of reaching the markets, maybe even beyond CIS. Thank you, Mr. Vadim Tito. I would like to give the floor to Mr. Azizbek Bahadirov. He's the first deputy chairman of the board of the association Uzprom Stroy Materials. I know that two ministers in the morning, they have showed great interest to your booth on the Inoprom trade fair. But my question is the role of the foreign investors in the work of your association. Good evening, dear ladies and gentlemen, participants of today's event. Welcome to Uzbekistan. Allow me to briefly present you the information about the industry of construction materials of Uzbekistan and the results achieved over the past several years, and also the conditions created for domestic and foreign investors in the sphere of production of construction materials. Thanks to the reforms implemented in Uzbekistan in the last year in the industry, for the past period, a number of positive results have been achieved, and also there were determined priority tasks that will be implemented in the industry in the 2022 in the nearest 5 years. As such, in 2021, the industry of construction materials, they produced the products for the $2.5 billion, including by the enterprises of the UZ Pромstroy Materiale, which accounted for $1 billion. So growth rate was 130%, and such construction materials as more than 14 million tons of cement, 28 million square meters of construction glass, 28 millions of ceramic tiles, more than 70 million square meters of gypsum board, and so on. So in 2021, we have exported products for more than 480 million USD, and then growth rate compared to the previous year was around more than twice. So the geography of outreach was expanded through to Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, to Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, and Russian Federation, Chinese People's Republic of China, and so on. So as part of the investment program, 1.7 billion USD was disbursed for implementing 39 projects. More than 328 million USD was disbursed. Of those, foreign direct investment for more than 215 million USD. Also, the commissioned 12 projects for a total amount of more than 300 million USD, including last year there were introduced such projects were commissioned as organizing the production of cement in Akhangaran Cement with Russian partners in Akhangaran city with 2.4 million USD per year, and Quartz JS in the Kuvasai city of construction glass with a capacity of more than 22 million square meters of glass per year, and Monolith Asia in Yashnabad district of Tashkent city of welding electrodes, so more than 29,000 tons per year, in cooperation with Belarusian partners. In 2021, the imports was more than 600 million USD. Such products were imported as wood, plates, construction glass, ceramic tile, plumbing goods, and so on. In this year, we expect the production of manufacturing products of more than 2.8 billion USD. That would include around 18 million tons of cement, more than 32 million square meters of construction glass, 24 million square meters of ceramic tile, more than 70 million square meters of gypsum board, more than 3 million square meters of wallpaper rolls. Through the expanding the assortment of goods, the exports of more than 700 million are expected. And this year, in the industry, we will commission 420 projects with a total amount of 1.5 billion USD, and creating more than 22,000 new jobs. And also, we will be commissioned 52,000 reed-based. Mr. Bahadir, if you allow me to ask several questions, we are very interested. I understand that we also have the leadership present here. What countries do you work with? Where do you have most foreign partners? So presently, we are doing partnership primarily with, you know that the industry of construction materials is bulky goods primarily. So export-import contracts we have primarily with neighboring countries, with Kazakhstan, with Russian Federation, and joint production. Well, joint production is also with Russian Federation, with Kazakhstan, with People's Republic of China, and other countries. Have you found them, or have they found you? Well, I believe that it is mutual desire, it's a mutual trust, first of all. And second of all, the factor that in Uzbekistan, at present, all conditions are created for foreign investors, and gives an opportunity for increasing the these joint ventures? Well, tell me, both Mr. Titov and Mr. Efendiyev said that with Uzbek partners, the relations should be very long-term. And how long have you held your negotiations with your Russian partners? Well, you know, in the industry of construction material production with Russian partners, we have a long history of very close relationship and interaction in terms of developing and of the research and development and the technology aspects of it. So I believe that with Russian partners, we do not have major issues of establishing joint enterprise and technology. And have you watched each other for a long time before shaking hands? Well, I believe that I cannot tell you exactly for how long, but we have now formed very close and trusting relationship. I guess I can help here because it really depends on the project each time. For example, the project that Mr. Bahadir mentioned, it's the steel sheets project. We got a very big project, and we have worked long on the technology, on the where there was less, it took less time. Thank you very much, Mr. Bahadir. And in the end of my speech, I would like to say that the Association Uzprom Materials in the first pavilion of the trade fair, we have the booth where we have offered our project proposals, and we urge all our partners and colleagues for cooperation. We encourage. Allow me to wish you to find new partners, and Inoprom, you are really in a very favorable spot. I would like to thank you and thank all participants of today's event for your time, the audience for your attention. We have 2 days of work at Inoprom. We have 14 events. I'm sorry, 24, apologies. I confused the first number. The seminars, conferences, presentations. We will be working tomorrow and the day after in this very hall. We will be working at ITC. There are more events, and this morning we were talking about that we do not have exhibition space, and I believe that very soon we will run out of events for conferences.
So in this way, I believe all this is very good. I would like to congratulate everyone with the first day of Inoprom. I wish to all of our speakers very productive days in Tashkent. And we wish our Uzbek hosts, and we would like to wish you all success and thank you for your hospitality. Thank you very much.